What is our aim? Our aim, and by the way, CSR Box team has not made it easy, right? There's like this full list of companies at the end projecting themselves, so it's a constant sort of a battle for your attention, and we'll try to do our best to keep you engaged. The aim here is that we understand that from an audience, there will be sort of fellow corporations, people from the CSR, ESG side. There'll be sort of people from the development org side, NGOs, partners. What our aim is that to pick up the big theme of the CSR Summit, look back a little bit on the last 10 years in the context of water and ag, and then also with these experts here, also understand what is their outlook for the next 10 years, only so that it makes for like a good conversation in terms of, okay, where are the ideas heading towards, and then we can have a lot of offline conversations on solutions that might be present, right? So before that, I know you heard their intros, except for Himanshu's, but I will give everyone an opportunity in a very fun manner. Okay, what you have to do is introduce yourself as if you were writing a title for your autobiography. So what would the title be? And then tell us in 1 or 2 statements the work that you do. So who's brave enough? I think I would give it to to Niyati, who's disguising today as Himanshu, to kick us off. I think it's
sorry. Yeah. No, can you repeat what you asked me?
So introduce yourself as if what will be your title of your autobiography. So what would you call it?
Okay. This man mattered.
This man mattered. Oh wow! Yeah. Give it up for that, guys.
Thank you. You know, since the teenage days, right, and I get this question which comes in my mind again and again, and sometimes I just park it on the side because it bothers too much. It's why am I here? Like the big philosophical question. It keeps coming at every few years. Yeah. And my journey also has been like this. It's been moving from immediate needs, what you can call it as, from a Maslow's perspective, roti kapda makan, right? Yeah. And from there, moving into why am I here? And my movement into CSR and ESG is actually driven by that. So I'm hoping that, so I've been in this sector for now 4 years. So I'm hoping that the balanced life that I sort of spend helps me achieve that particular aspect, which is what I said, this man mattered.
That's amazing. And you have to say, tell us in 1 or 2 statements, what is the work that you do?
So, so I'm with Kotak Bank, and I look after CSR and ESG there. So obviously it's what the bank is doing, and I'm helping sort of with the team achieve that. Broadly, we focus on 4 areas: education and livelihood being one of them, followed by healthcare, environment, and sports. Right. And our aim is to sort of make a meaningful difference in the communities that we work with. So I think meaningful is the word which I would emphasize. So you won't see us quoting big numbers in terms of billions lives touched. But we always look at whether our projects made a difference in the life of the people in a meaningful manner.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Please give it up for Himanshu. And now I'm going to turn my head here and I'm going to go with Seema first. So Seema, what will be the title of your autobiography?
I would say a professional beggar.
Oh wow, okay. Tell us more.
Because I started my journey, because I chose this social sector as a career 17 years ago, when there were no CSR as such, and there was no money, there was no career as such. So, but I've taken the brave decision to be the part of this journey. And since then, I'm just begging for a money from, that time there were no corporates more, but of course the foundations, etc., etc. Then it's been over 10 years now that I am working with different corporates, and still I'm asking for money, resources. So I would say CSR.
And being successful at it, I'm pretty sure.
That I don't know, but yeah. And so yet, even my boss says, you're a professional beggar that we have, you're paying you, still you keep asking for a money for your CSR work, of course. And then So Crompton Greaves, what I'm doing, I'm trying my level best. So we have an agenda, of course, a business growth, business, etc. But I'm trying is the responsible growth for all. So including customers, the community that we serve, the plants that we have, our people around us. So that's what we do through water, skilling, entrepreneurship, and the other community care projects. Yeah.
Beautiful. Welcome on board, Seema. Thank you. Yes. Okay. I've been guided to you, Ram. So over to you.
The title of my biography, it's a very difficult thing. Dhobi ka kutta na ghar ka na ghat ka. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. So I'm a Tamilian, but born and brought up in Delhi. And I remember when I used to go to school, my friends would say, "Arey, ye tum Madrasi aa gaya" types. And when I used to go to South, my relatives would say, "Dilli wala aa gaya." And consistently, wherever I go, I get similar views from people. So I've been a consultant, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been an investor. So whenever I feel, okay, this is a community I belong to, the guys say, nahi, nahi, ye investor aa gaya, nahi, nahi, ye founder aa gaya, nahi, nahi, ye consultant aa gaya, and so on and so forth. So that could be.
No, well put. So what is the latest role that you're...
Yeah, so, a nice project or a nice workday for me would involve, so I'm part of Primus Partners, so a nice execution for me would be if I can work with an MSME manufacturer or an MSME supplier, get him some funding from the likes of Kotak, get him to go down like a nice decarbonization journey by looking at some kind of a sustainable power consumption pattern, so to say, and help him supply or become a better supplier to someone like a Crompton. Take some initiatives which reduces the water consumption in his industry or in his factory, and take help from the likes of Pani, and run this very well, effectively for him, then I can go home and have a beer from AB InBev. So,
wow, he was not paid for this. I can assure you of that. But thank you so much for such a nice introduction. And last but definitely not the least, Mukesh, over to you.
जिष्णु, कभी-कभी मेरे दिल में ख्याल आता है, क्योंकि so that's not the title. The title is different. So it's not the first time that you are asking me. Even sometimes I also think if somebody has to write a biography, and I am assuming it will be during my lifetime, because I want to read it. And that is one of the reasons why I keep shy from getting photographed, because I want my biographer to work hard to find it out for me. Yeah? So I've thought about it. So the title would be अच्छा आदमी है. Posthumously you can say अच्छा आदमी था. Basically a family man, a decently successful professional, good human being. That's what I want to be remembered as. Regarding my work, I'll talk about Pani a bit.
Yeah.
So People's Action for National Integration has been around for more than 35 years, working primarily in UP. By default, by design, we work only with the most marginalized and vulnerable population. So we have a criteria, and so the middle income and upper income are out of our purview. We work on women empowerment, adolescent girls, water and climate, natural resource management, education, and community health. So these are the work areas. We have worked with about more than 25 million households till now. And currently we are engaged with 2.5 lakh farmers and households. Regarding my own journey, I have been in and out of the development sector. So I started with Amul went to ICICI Bank, worked with a consulting firm, then again with USAID, HDFC Bank, and now Pani.
Brilliant. Welcome on board. So the reason why this is important, I think, is not just so that you can know them, but also contextualize all that you're going to hear in the next 20 minutes, basis the backgrounds that each of them have had, which is clearly very enriching. So I'm going to dive into it now, and we're going to pick up the pace. I get certain benefits of being a moderator where I don't have to answer these questions. So let's save it for the end. So diving in with the limitation of time that the CSR Box team has given to us, I think I'm kind of going to be preaching to the choir while setting this context, but let's do that nonetheless, right? So when we talk about water, there is a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. Number one, at an individual level, generally when a question is asked around your water consumption, right? How many of you think it would be daily water consumption for one person? How many of you think it's somewhere around less than 100 liters per day? Please just raise your hand. Anyone who thinks it's less than 100 liters per day? Okay, we have one. Anyone who thinks it's between 100 to 200 liters per day? Okay, quite a few more. What about 200 to 500? 200 to 500. And what about more than 500? That's going to be the majority, I would imagine. No, there's no one here. The thought process here is that there is a kind of consumption of water that you see in front of your eyes, which is while you take a bath and the water you drink and, you know, the vegetables that you wash. But there's a ton of water that goes into making certain products that we sort of consume, be it from food, be it fabric, right, everything. And daru, of course, absolutely right. So it's sort of like a scope 3 of water, right, that needs to be kept in mind, which we sometimes ignore. And when we also look at the last, like we had a beautiful inaugural, I think of the 2024 CSR report that Bhaumik did this morning, we saw that there's about 30,000 crore being spent in CSR money. And that's the latest figure per annum, right? And it's grown from year on year. So my question to all of you is, with the water problem, which is inextricably linked to agriculture as well, and all the work that we've seen on CSR over the last 10 years, what do you think has been one hit in terms of the way that we spent that money, and maybe one gap that you think is opened? And you can choose. You can talk about the hit or you can talk about the gap. You don't have to cover either. So maybe Seema, you want to go first?
Sure. I think the hit would be, at least we have started, thinking and started working on it. Otherwise, because the water is free, so there was no that seriousness that, we really need to conserve the water at that level. One, two, also we have gone beyond just water conservation. Is not just rainwater harvesting, but it's more than that. It's just not about optimizing the surface water, but we need to see the groundwater as well. I think that depth that now we are reached to. One miss, I would say, we are still a long way to go, Jishnu, in terms of still we are thinking very in isolation, very sector specific, very water usage for farmers or for industry, very, very scattered. So maybe that's a way that I see. We need to see
so you're saying it's too fragmented in terms of our approach.
It is. Maybe because I think I will again like to blame maybe the corporates or those who are funding or at least thinking on that direction. Everybody is sitting on their agenda and just thinking and working in isolation. That could be a reason.
No? Fair. Thanks for that. Who wants to go next? Ram?
I think some of the river cleaning initiatives which have been compared to what we thought, it's going to be absolutely impossible to do anything, but the kind of progress we have seen, I think, is fairly commendable, and obviously that contributes to eventually what kind of water resources you can use across the country. I think that's a great initiative from a mass scale and a government point of view. From a flop or huge scope for improvement perspective, I have a very strong personal view that the whole groundwater pumping and the huge amount of subsidies we have even today for actually digging borewells instead of pushing for community pond development and well development, that kind of activity, I think is just insane. You're just incentivizing people to deplete the groundwater levels, it just makes no sense to me, and that has to be urgently stopped.
Well, very fair point there. Mukesh?
So I think the hate I'll borrow from Seemaji and Ramji. Hate is at least people have now started talking about water, because two fallacies still exist. Is that water is inexhaustible. है, free है, हवा के जैसा, जितना चाहो निकाल लो. So that is one, and people have started realizing that that's not the case. The second, which is I think more important, is that it is a common resource, right? The current thinking is, ज़मीन मेरी, ज़मीन के नीचे का पानी मेरा. And that applies not only to farmers, but also to us. Construct a house, do a borewell, and extract as much of water you want. Yeah. So it's not that कि मेरे ज़मीन के नीचे है तो मैं कितना निकालूं. So I think that has started being realized, but then action to address that still needs to be widespread enough to show some impact on this one. And so that I think is a hit where we have, and the gap I think is most of the work that entities like Pani do is still not really what is needed by the community or what is actually needed to be done. Sometimes, and when I say that, I realize that we have two, I mean, it's societal to say in front of two funders, is that it is guided by funder priorities, implementers' expertise, and not really by the community need. So that I think is still a gap where we need to find some common way. Yeah. I'll pause there.
No, thanks for that. So far I think what we have is, if I can just quickly try to encapsulate, is that it's been a great starting point for sure. And it's been a great starting point for 10 years. It's hopefully reached some mark right now. There's still clearly gaps that all three of you have highlighted, be it the way that we're selecting projects. I think one example that you already gave in terms of the borewell piece as well. But there's a lot of like positives which now need to be built on as well, right? So with the benefit of hearing everyone else, Himanshu, do you want to add on and tell us what do you think?
So I think access and supply is the side where a lot of funds have gone in, and some difference has happened. I think the aspect which has got missed out or has not been addressed enough is the demand side. And demand side is not just individually, right? Yeah. As an urban, and I keep quoting this, I stay in Mumbai, my water comes from, I don't know, some 60, 70 kilometers away from the place. Yeah. From the place where it comes from, I don't think people out there have the access to the water, the kind of access that I have 24/7, right? So it's not been equitable on the way the supply has happened. And on the demand side, I think we have to understand that expecting people to consume lesser is a difficult thing to do, right? Yeah. It's a capitalism, consumerism, whatever you call it. It's a very big change that needs to happen, and I think it'll happen through the generation where people actually see that if they don't do something in this front, tomorrow there might not be much available. Yeah. Unfortunate part is, as supply improves, that realization that water is scarce sort of temporarily goes away. So it's kind of counterintuitive in that sense.
Yeah, so that's, I think, quite on point. And with respect to tying into what everyone said, that I think very well sums it up, right? So that covers everything that we were going to talk about of what's happened in the past. From this point onwards, I think you had said that I should pull out the crystal ball. So this is all of you now pulling out the crystal ball. And let's talk about what will be needed in this space over the next 10 years, right? When we talk about agriculture, which we've spoken about as a big sort of consumer of the water that we talk about, the groundwater, what we are seeing is that the farmer is aging. The next generation is not picking up farming as a profession. In terms of willingness, in terms of education of it as well, There's a lot of technology that is being tried to fit in to it for sure, but there probably be very few that are being built bottom up for it. We're talking about a soil layer, the topsoil layer, which is eroding continuously. Water logging, there'll be sort of chemical toxins entering the soil. With all that is there today on that, as well as trying to match it with how people are going forward, right? Like with respect to certain trends that you see in food changes. People moving towards maybe slowly but surely beyond wheat, beyond rice, right? In terms of what they consume. And where professionals are, or people are going for their education, let's say technology or otherwise, pick up any one or two of these areas, and where do you think from a corporation perspective, be it CSR, be it ESG, can we go ahead and have a material impact over the next 10 years to try to solve for this? And let's remember, we're talking about this funding being a catalyst fund. So the idea is not that we can solve for everything from a CSR standpoint, but where would you catalyze first? That'll be my question. And maybe Ram, you can kick us off with this.
Sure. So I think the the opposite side or the corollary to instead of incentivizing borewell activity, if you could drive community level pond development, and pond development could be multifaceted, right? I mean, it's to capture water, it's to have, aqua kind of culture happening over there. There could be some kind of, tourism built into it, because a lot of people do want that experiential factor, so on and so forth. So if there can be not just government kind of grants or funds moving towards it, if CSR can start sponsoring like a community development activity, a large level pond kind of construction, and then using that water for the overall community, not just farming but other things as well, I think that could solve a lot of problems together.
Okay, that's fair. Mukesh, do you want to add on to that and share your side of it?
Yeah, so I think I'll just build upon my earlier points that community intervention, of course, is needed. I think one of the things that actually matters is that whatever intervention, whatever things you do, will not sustain if it is brought from outside or imposed upon. So what we have witnessed in our small work is that when we involve people from the community and the PRI members and some of the influencers in the program design, right? And when they themselves think through that this is a real need, and when they come up with those solutions, which then go into the program design, the ownership level is much higher. And it also ensures sustainability of those programs when the implementing agency withdraws, when the project is over, when the funder moves to some other priority or some other location, the activities still continue. Yeah. And that is, I think, what is the need of the hour, and what will happen is that this will increase. Because over the last 10 years, as you pointed out earlier, is that the focus was on pond rejuvenation and water bodies and other things, and then we started looking into rainwater harvesting and conservation and other things. Currently, it is kind of more of collaboration between the government and the implementing agencies and the CSR. So it's large scale and community owned and community driven. So I think if with addition of technology, that is where we are headed, is that everybody is involved, the needs come from the community, and whoever is involved contributes to their best capabilities.
And that's a good point, I think, good to segue into what you were talking about earlier, Himanshu, on the sustainability education front, right? Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about how you and your organization are seeing that, sure, and maybe share a little bit on that example as well?
Sure. We've sort of looked at sustainability from a slightly different lens. As a bank, our own operations generally don't impact much. It's the scope 3, or essentially the financed emissions, which sort of have an impact. So when we were looking at designing a CSR program in the areas of sustainability, one of the things that we thought of was what can we do which will have an ecosystem level impact. And the challenge that we saw, at least on the sustainability front, was there was no institution specifically focusing on it within India. There was limited research which was happening with the focus on sustainability. And there was limited India-specific solutions which were coming in. So keeping that in mind, we actually reached out to various education institutions and we eventually tied up with IIT Kanpur. Last year, we launched Kotak School of Sustainability, which is taking a comprehensive look at the area of sustainability through having its own academic program, industry sort of programs as well. There is dedicated research that will happen. The school is going to have somewhere around 6 centers of excellence, each of which would have their own separate pool of funding and separate objectives. And we are looking at creating a manpower base which can actually deliver solutions specific for India, which can then drive future change.
Yeah. That is absolutely good. So, School of Sustainability reminded, like my experience with it has been actually outside of India, let's say in Bali, right? You'll see so many schools which are sort of built ground up, not just like the curriculum being sustainability, but literally the structure being, you know, made out of bamboo, etc. And those are some of the very sort of fundamental things I think that we can do now, and that's a good point. But in terms of what's changing, Seema, my question to you also is, partnerships is what Mukesh brought. What about private-private partnerships? I'm seeing that as a trend as well with respect to collaboratives, be it with respect to water, river basin efforts, be it on ag as well. So what has been your experience with that as Crompton, you know, and what are some plans going forward for that?
The partnership will definitely work, but only when 2 things. I think the thumb rule. One is that both the partners are not more than talking with each other. If we spend some time within the village and just hear and just listen whatever the farmers or the villagers they are saying. If you spend, I think, more time there on the ground, I think without a consultant, and I know that I'm quite a consultant here. So this is what my practice, I mean, over 17 years, what I've learned is that instead of spending 1 month having a discussion with a potential partner or with a consultant or with a grassroots NGO, if I spend 2 to 3 days with the family, I think I will get to know what is needed and what is the challenge over there.
Well, no offense to consultants, just to be very clear on Seema's behalf. She doesn't mean any harm there, but I see the point you're driving. It's absolutely fair. So being able to experience it on ground.
Yeah, and just hear them out. That's it. That's the only thing I think we need to do. And maybe I'm the wrong person to say because we have really experts here, but this is what I've learned over the years. And partnership was called the expectation setting because as you know, we all have our own agendas to fulfill. The business goals are there. Strategic CSR is there. But having said that, the balancing out, you know, the what best we could do within that framework, you know, which is a win-win for the business also and for the community as well.
Okay. One piece which is, I think, very important to touch upon in this has to be with respect to demand side. I think it was brought up, interventions, right? There are various reasons why that might be just a very difficult task to be able to accomplish. Maybe it was less focused. There could be various things that are there. There are also other government programs that we can learn from. When we talk about, let's say, Swachh Bharat Mission as well, right? There was also a big behavior change there. I know it came with a physical toilet construction as well, but there was a big behavior change that has been driven, right? Jal Jeevan is now, you know, we have water in so many houses. But what about training people on the usage of that water, right? So my real question to anyone who would like to take this up, so I'll keep it open, is if you had in mind, basis your learning and the projects that you worked on, what are 1 or 2 key things that work when we are trying to manage anything on the demand side? What would it be? And maybe also for, if you're like a funder, also talk about where you are looking for some sort of support for any organization to come in. So it's open for anyone who would like to go first for this. Yeah, okay.
So my recent experience in Rajasthan where I saw women, tribal women, completely illiterate, but they were actually doing water budgeting, wherein they are calculating how much water the cat is consuming, they are consuming, the dogs are consuming. Can you believe this? I have never thought about it. Actually, it's a water budgeting. Yeah. So this is one thing. So calculating your actually your water consumption at that level, how much is a cat is drinking the water, from the source or drinking water. That is one. Second, I would say going back to basics. And I would really, as a Crompton Greaves, what we are trying to do with my experience over 17 years, what the farmer or entire the agri sector, what they used to do 17, 18, or maybe 60, 70 years ago. Not the multiple cropping, using no fertilizer or less fertilizer, or with the minimum water, how best they could do, not focusing much on the cash crop. I think that I'd really like to go back to 60, 70 years technology, then the latest new technology which is coming across. And there's too much of knowledge, technology, confusing things are happening on the ground. So that is really helping us because, small example, when we working in the Ahmednagar district, we seen that, because of the basics, back to basics, technology, and the knowledge that the traditional farmers that have, there's a reverse migration in terms of, the youngsters who actually moved from the village to the factories to work as a laborers and just earning like 12, 13, 15,000 rupees in our factories. Now they're back to their native place and they're doing farming because they could see, they could grow sweet lime or anything, after 20, 30 years now. So I would, at least for me, going forward is going back to what technology was earlier.
That's very well put. Thank you for sharing that, Seema. Yes, we'll give you the opportunity to go next. Okay.
Yeah, so I will share my experience from our work where we are trying to democratize water usage. And as Seema ji put it, we are working currently in a program in Lucknow district. And we have worked with the community where water budgeting has been kind of, I won't say taught, but they have been made aware about what water budgeting is. And just imagine women themselves creating a map of their village in a large place and marking the more important places. Here is a temple, here is a pond, here is our orchard and so on. And then they start talking about, okay, these many households, these many people, plus all the these cattle and other things. So wherever there is use of water, they then start talking about that and how much of water is being consumed for each of these use versus how much should be used. And when they realize that we are wasting it, or somebody else is wasting it, that is when they start talking about that and there have been cases where neighbors have got into kind of discussion, not actually argument, or maybe it starts with argument, but then it goes into discussion, is that why are you wasting so much of water in bathing your cattle? When you can take it to the pond and use the other water? Why are you wasting this tap water, which you pointed out? How do we tell them what is the right use? So that is, I think, what is required, but that is very, very resource intensive because you have to be there, gain their trust that whatever you are telling them is for their own benefit. And as I will repeat my earlier point is that the counter argument is, yaar, pani hai, khatam thodi ho raha hai. And then we tell them it is for you. Do you want to leave it for your next generation and the next? Or do you want them to curse you for not being judicious with this use? So that is when they start realizing, okay, this is something that we should do something about.
So I've been closely involved with farming across different states. And, one thing which I've seen very clear as a difference in terms of just the commercial element of, using water, which is related to the use of power, varies across states. So there are states where power is completely free. There are states where power is highly subsidized. And then there are regions, not state specific, where the power supply is so erratic that the farmer has to necessarily have DG sets. And depending on the amount of money he has to pay out of his pocket, trust me, he is very, very, very cautious about how much water goes into the farm. Then he doesn't say, oh, no, this is how my grandfather used to grow, and I'll spray water, for the hell of it. So somewhere I think it's important to bring that cost element to whoever is the user, and that will drive the right behavior.
Pricing the water in some sense, which is going to be there.
So let me look at it slightly differently. Anything which is long term, right? 10 years afterwards, water would not be available. 15 years later, this will dry out. Will actually not work. Typically, we don't think in such long terms. It's immediate, right? The demand for water is coming because it's being used for generating additional income, right? So unless there is a solution which replicates that income without actually increasing the demand for water, you will see an increased supply leading to increased consumption. So solution lies in essentially moving, interventions in a direction where, by design, I need to use less water to get more money. So that's the direction that is taking.
So if I was to just quickly do a roundup on that, essentially everything from being aware by calculating so that it's a little bit more tangible than just an idea, to driving it from, other stakeholders, sometimes within the community itself, but not relying just on trust and the goodwill, maybe putting something that sort of pinches a little bit, right? And all in the good, intention to bring the real value of it, is a combination of things that we're saying that might be able to sort of create a dent there, right? I think it's a good time to take a pause. We've heard a lot. Yes, 3 minutes. Thank you so much for that. We have 3 minutes for any questions that we might have from the audience. Yes, sir. Is there anyone who can give sir a mic, please? जी.
We all have taps. आपके घर में नलका है? नलका कभी लीक भी करता है कि नहीं करता? करता है। आपने कभी देखा, सोचा कि 1 सेकंड में अगर 1 ड्रॉप पानी का गिरता है तो कितना पानी गिरता है? It is 0.3 ml. 1 drop per second is 0.3 ml, and in 1 year it is 10,000 liters. And a human being takes only 2,000 liters max in 1 year. तो अगर आप एक ही तुपका बचा लेना, हमारी basic fundamental is only on education here. How we are making people realize for that. Pricing and non-pricing, sorry, I don't want to differ with you. It's not a question, I just wanted to make a comment. If this much we cannot do, then what are we doing? We are able to save 1 drop for 5 years of our water consumption for drinking, right? So I thought I'll just leave a thought here. It's all about the education system in making a person's heart touch.
Yeah, that's very well put, sir. Yes, ma'am, then when we'll come this side. Thank you for sharing that thought. Please keep the round of applause going if you wanted to.
So I think I'll add to the same direction, and very proudly I can say here that for last 10 years, I've been taking something called a half a bucket bath, right? 10 years, and now it's a habit. अपने आप नलका बंद हो जाता है, right? See, the problem I see, and मैं गांव में रहती हूँ, so I know पानी का कितना important है, ठीक है? खेती भी है घर के सामने. प्रॉब्लम ये है कि बहुत अच्छा एक ऐड भी आया था कि यहाँ एक शहरी का शावर हो गया, स्नान हो गया, और यहाँ पूरे गांव ने पानी पी लिया. Till the time we don't take this notion of shower and luxury out of our mindset, I feel really ashamed when I go to these properties where in hotels, and it's a status symbol, sorry, even in houses today, unfortunately, we don't want to keep a bucket and a mug in our bathrooms. Yeah. It's a status symbol. So, and it is very annoying. It is very annoying. And I just want to share, and when my son asked, so it's something I'm doing for my son, because I asked him to spend less time in the shower, because he's also a swimmer. And I said, आपको compensate करना पड़ेगा. And I was in Delhi then, now I am not in Delhi. मैं उन्हें बस्ती लेके गई, जहाँ पे टैंकर आ रखा था, और पहले ही हम स्कूटर पे जाके बैठ गए, कि मम्मा क्यों लाए हो. मैंने कहा बेटा अभी मेरे को किसी का वेट करना है. And then he saw the fight there. He saw the fight, right? And I tell him I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm preparing myself for the day zero.
Yeah.
And we all have to. Because I was in Goa in an Airbnb, similar Airbnb,
Yeah.
no buckets. And there was a pipe, फट गया था.
Yeah.
पूरे एरिया में पानी नहीं था. पूल था वहाँ पे. मगर पूल में से निकालने के लिए बकेट नहीं था.
Yeah.
Some 20 villas and there was not even a single bucket.
Yeah.
So we have to very consciously think about it. And I just want to add one more point here. I don't know how many of us have seen that research, that because of the groundwater depletion, the axis of our earth has kind of moved.
Yeah.
And it is also leading to, it has its impact on climate
No,
change.
that's, I think, very well taken and very well put as well in terms of everything we're going. We think we can take one more, I think, ma'am here, if that's okay.
Yeah, I heard the discussion. It was very fruitful. जैसा आपने बताया कि ग्राउंड वाटर पे हमको कुछ रेशनिंग करनी चाहिए बोरवेल्स वगैरह पे, लेकिन उससे ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट मुझे ये लगता है कि हमको ग्राउंड वाटर रिचार्ज करना चाहिए, बिकॉज द नेचुरल पर्कोलेशन रेट इज़ जस्ट 3%, विच इज़ नॉट सफाइस कंसिडरिंग द पॉपुलेशन, द ग्रोइंग पॉपुलेशन. लेकिन ग्राउंड वाटर पे 96% डिपेंडेंसी है फॉर एवरी सेक्टर. So we should not forget this, that the 96% of the groundwater is being used for all the sectors, whether it is domestic, agriculture or industrial. और अभी हम देखते हैं कि सेमीकंडक्टर का बहुत बूम आ रहा है. सेमीकंडक्टर को पानी कितना लगता है वो सोचा है. हम ये देख रहे हैं कि हाइड्रोजन बेस्ड अभी सब आने वाली हैं व्हीकल्स वगैरह, लेकिन वो हाइड्रोजन को बनाने के लिए नेचर पे कितना टोल आएगा वो हम देख रहे हैं. उसके लिए इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चाहिए. 83% ऑफ द इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन दी थर्मल पावर, वाटर पे डिपेंडेंट है. तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी से हम हाइड्रोजन जनरेट करेंगे और हम एनवायरनमेंट को फ़ायदा पहुंचाएंगे. हम फ़ायदा पहुंचा रहे हैं कि नुकसान पहुंचा रहे हैं. और उसमें वाटर कितना जाएगा? हाइड्रोजन से तो, हाइड्रोजन तो पानी से ही बनेगा ना. उतना पानी कहाँ से आएगा? तो पानी को, rain is the only source, we must realize it. And the water percolation, water recharge is must.
Yeah.
Niti Aayog has declared 21 cities waterless in terms of groundwater, because groundwater is in excess use. India sub culprit hai groundwater ko. Globally, India is the one who is,
Yeah.
So groundwater recharge पे हम कोई बात नहीं करते हैं.
Yeah.
ग्राउंड वाटर को हम स्टॉप करने की बात करते हैं कि मत उसको विड्रॉ करो, लेकिन अंदर उसका जो हेल्थ को डैमेज हो रहा है, अर्थ की इंटरनल हेल्थ को, सी वाटर इंट्रूजन का खतरा है उसमें.
Yeah.
तो हमको ग्राउंड वाटर रिचार्ज करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. आज जो हम पानी पी रहे हैं वो मिलियंस ऑफ ईयर्स पुराना है.
Yes, ma'am.
तो हम तो अपनी नेक्स्ट जनरेशन के लिए भी कुछ नहीं छोड़ रहे. मिलियंस तो छोड़ दीजिए.
If I can just quickly summarize your point then in terms of we are eating into our reserve, जो हमारा ground water है, जो एक हमारा reserve है, we are eating into it. There has to be equal or a lot more effort in terms of going back and recharging it.
Artificial recharge is
But
must.
also, I
It's the
think
need of the hour.
one very important thing, and thanks a lot for that point, please have a seat as well, is when we talk about the next 10 years, right, the technology changes that kind of what she brought up are another sort of an angle that we need to all keep in mind and consider, and it will pose new challenges, right? So with that, I think I'm going to take this opportunity to maybe do a little bit of a closing, if that's fine, because I've been shown the time card multiple times. We're available still to be able to talk offline. Thanks a lot for whoever shared. But I just want to make one observation from the way that you guys introduced yourselves. And I think it's a bit about this space as well. The people who end up picking up this space are also very passionate. You know, they're happy to sort of go with that resilient mindset कि पैसे मांगने हैं तो मांगने हैं काम करने के लिए, right? अच्छा आदमी है जो वो काम कर रहा है, right? And at the end of the day, the point is that we are all people who will do a lot of work, but whatever we do, we're doing it in a space where whatever you do is sometimes or most times not enough, right? But I think it's also important to take a pause and celebrate the wins that we've had And on that note, if there's one thing that I can make all of us do on stage, and if you are kind enough as an audience to follow, what's helped us when we look back in the last 10 years is there was a dream. So if you get your hands together like this, please, right? All of my fellow panelists. There was a dream. We were in status quo. There was a dream, and we had that dream. It opened up a gap, right? In the last 10 years, we've been able to do a lot to try to close that gap. We might not be here, but we're somewhere here, right? And it's something that we'll eventually reach to at this point. And then what will we do? We'll dream bigger again, right? So that's the mindset that I will just request all of you to take forward, and with all the brilliant work that you're doing. And I want to thank a lot to all the fellow panelists for bringing your knowledge, bringing your expertise, bringing your complete selves, and hopefully making this an exciting discussion for everyone. We'll be available for any conversations later. Thanks a lot, and all the best for the rest of the session.